Hello, internet world. Thanks for your patience. I was a couple minutes late for this morning's positive and productive Monday. I don't really have a good reason other than I was eating breakfast and really felt like brushing my teeth before talking. I don't know. I guess I could actually tie that into today's strategy if I wanted to. That idea of habits, I've always brushed my teeth before I left for work my whole entire life. And just because I'm on the internet and I don't necessarily have to, I still feel the compulsion to do so. Like, you can't start work unless you brush your teeth. Because it'd be weird to say hi to my friends like Melissa without doing so. Although no one knows but me, which is funny how the brain works. But I guess goes into the power of mind. Hey, Lynn. So here's me with my teeth brushed, but not my hair, ironically. And I have my gym clothes on because I have to work out early today, which is all random and unnecessary knowledge. Let's talk about positive and productive. I don't know if I've shared this before, but I used to race motocross. I did make it to the professional level, but once I hit that rank, I found myself at the bottom of the barrel, which was really, really frustrating. So despite riding and racing my whole entire life, I rode my first bike when I was around 5. I started racing at the age of 12. I went pro around, I want to say 19 or 20. Those years are a little foggy for me. Thanks, head injuries. Yeah, I found myself not really performing as well as I'd like to. So I signed up to work with a local professional racer who was offering classes to kind of pay for his way through the ranks because it's an expensive sport. And I remember he had us doing drills where we'd start our bike at the top of a hill and we'd be in the attack position. So you're standing on the foot pegs, knees slightly bent, you're squeezing the tank with your knees so you have stability. You have your elbows up, your chin over the bar. And he'd have us start going down the hill and take our hands off and try to use our legs to kind of swerve the bike back and forth. And we just did it over and over and over again. And then the second day we came back, and instead of doing that, we had one corner and we just hit it over and over and over again. One of the things that I learned in that process was the coach used to say, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. And the word perfect is problematic. So I'm not going to promote perfection, but it illustrates a really good point. I could practice doing that corner on my dirt bike 1,000 times. And if I did it 1,000 times incorrectly, I'm putting in a hell of a lot of practice, but I'm not going to be making progress. So it's really, really important that the practice you do is for the results you want. Okay? So that's huge. What makes it even more big is when you compare it to your past, right? So if I'd been riding dirt bikes for decades, literally 2 decades, and let's suppose I've been doing it wrong the whole time, how many corners have I gone through incorrectly compared to one day of doing it over and over again, where about 20% of my corners were correct? The scales aren't balanced. So what does that have to do with being productive and life outside of dirt bikes? Well, 2 things. Well, actually, I always say 2 things or 3 things. It ends up being more. So let's just take the math out of it. A few things. We need to make sure that we give ourselves grace because we have a whole life behind us. And whatever our habits were, they've been practiced a heck of a lot more than these new ones we're trying to develop. So that's one. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fall into old patterns. And that can be frustrating, but it is what it is. The second part is that moving forward, you have to be really intentional. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. So what does that look like and where is it coming from? I bring this up because I have goals that have changed, through the pandemic. What work looks like has changed, what family interactions look like has changed. Tons of other things have changed, some for the better, some are neutral, some are worse. But what hasn't changed is who I am and what I want out of this life. How I must go about it looks a little different. And what I'm finding is no matter how much I want something, how motivated I am, it's just not going to embed itself in my day, and it's not going to just happen. So, to be more clear, I have this goal of publication. It's been a goal forever. I've been writing, I would say, for the last 4 years pretty regularly. But with the pandemic, what it's going to look like and how I'm going to go about it is different. So, all of the habits that I had before served me in that time, but don't serve me now. And what I'm finding is when my day starts, I get so caught up in all of the new things I have to do, the new way that I'm doing my work, the new way that I'm related with my child, the new way that I'm moving through my day. And again, some's better than before, some's neutral, and some I'm not a fan of. And it's been really hard to find time to focus on that really big, important goal of mine. So hopefully you have something in your life that's been I call them mountain goals. They're like in the distance. They look really big and difficult, but if you just keep walking towards them, and when you get there walking up the mountain, you'll get there eventually, but it's very slow progress. You could call them slow progress goals, long-term goals, life goals. If you're into David Allen, he would call these like 30,000 foot goals. I forget his terminology, but we digress again, per the usual. You have to work on perfect practice and understand that just like the goal itself is progressive and long term, developing the habits that will get you there are progressive and long term. So, what I'm going to offer today for a specific strategy to deal with that is you need to literally schedule 5 minutes to work on that, which sounds ludicrous, right? Like if I have a big goal of publishing the book that I'm writing, 5 minutes doesn't feel like enough. Like it's this big, huge thing. Guess what? 5 minutes over the course of a month, every day for a month. Here you go with the math thing again. That's a couple hours, right? It adds up. And once I build that habit, I can bump that 5 minutes up to 10 or 15, and eventually I'm going to get where I need to go. The problem is a little bit here or feeling like I need an hour to do it. So the specific strategy is those big long-term goals you have, schedule them in. And they could be as loose as having better relationships, right? That's very non-specific. I'm going to put in my calendar 5 minutes every single day. I'm going to do something to get better at a relationship. And it could be reading an article or calling somebody or watching a documentary on some psychology. I don't know. If it's a physical goal, like long term, I want to compete in weightlifting. I want to run a 5K. I want to do X, Y, or Z. Yeah, let's go with the 5K example. One, because we have one coming up in September, but I think this will really illustrate what I'm trying to say. If I want to run a 5K, I could look up Couch to 5K, and yeah, their workouts are not 5 minutes or half an hour. So I might say like, oh, shoot, I don't have a half hour today. And then the next day comes, I run out of time. I don't have a half hour. I'm not going to do it. Well, guess what? 5 minutes of walking, jogging, or running will get you closer to a 5K than waiting for the right half hour for you to get the whole workout in. So something's better than nothing, but make sure you're intentional about it, right? Don't just willy-nilly. Perfect practice makes perfect. Really drill in. What do I want and what time am I willing to give it? So 5 minutes a day on something very important to you. I remember reading, I'm going to mess this up, but it's about two gentlemen who were doing that big race in Antarctica, I believe it is. They have dog sleds and they have to traverse this crazy amount of miles. It takes days. It's not just like, oh, we're going to be really cold for a day and sprint. Or maybe it takes months. I don't know. Sorry. Probably should have refreshed my memory before sharing, but I didn't plan on using this example. Anyways, there were two people who were kind of in contention to win this big, huge event, this dog sled race. And one of them went with this slow and steady strategy. I'm going to do X amount of miles every single day. Good weather, this many miles. Bad weather, this many miles. there was another captain who took his team and he's like, on good days, we're going to push as hard as we can. And on the really bad days, we're going to stop and rest. And he kind of had this erratic accumulation of mileage. Well, not only did he lose his race, he also lost the lives of most of his team members. They did not cross the finish line. So there's huge consequences. And that specific consistency on the front end is really related to what I'm trying to portray, that we need to not only focus on the things we have to do within a given day, we have to intentionally make space in our lives for these things that are important to us. I remember way before I was old enough to think about marriage, hearing, I hate to admit this, but Dr. Phil, I used to skip school and watch all those silly talk shows. So I'm not promoting Dr. Phil, and if you like him, that's your prerogative. If you don't, I understand. But one of the things he was telling a couple, like, again, this is before I was old enough to really comprehend marriage, but I just remember being blown away. He's like, you have to put time to hug each other on your calendar every day. You need to put it on there. And I was like, well, this is ridiculous, and I never want to grow old if that's what you have to do. But you know what? Now that I'm a little bit further along in years, I see wisdom in that. It feels kind of weird and unnatural to schedule things that we love, our passions, into our day. But the truth is, life will just steamroll the time that we have. And if you've been here all along, I've talked in previous episodes about how our brains are really having a hard time understanding time since the pandemic. We've lost those temporal markers, or the ability to kind of track what's going on in elapsed time in our days, because our routines are so vastly changed. So yeah, even more so during these unnatural circumstances we're living in, time gets steamrolled. So you literally need to take that extra step and put it into your calendar. Anyways, a bunch of stories just to say, whatever's important to you, even if it doesn't feel like it has to do with getting things done or being productive, positivity comes from a sense of fulfillment. So when you're able to take something that means a lot to you and put it into your day consistently, it's going to lead to this sense inside of you that you're at least tracking in the right direction. So with that, as soon as I get off of here, I'm going to do 5 minutes of research on places to send my next publication. And then I'll probably do some mom stuff, because that's another goal I have. My son will probably like it. He's on the stairs with his waffle. Waiting. I don't see any questions. Again, I apologize if you put some in. Sometimes we're using StreamYard, which is a wonderful platform, but the comments don't always come in, so I don't always see them. And remember, we have our outdoor programming available, so we got some cool stuff coming up. You can see the calendar right on Facebook. There's actually a hike at one of my favorite places out where I live, Conklin Gully, coming up this weekend. And for those of you who are able to and interested, they're also camping. I won't be there, but I highly recommend it if you're able to get transportation and that's something you like to do. It's absolutely gorgeous. We also have our peer services. They're still up and running. So regardless of where you are in your journey, thinking about getting sober, already sober, been sober a long time, if you feel like having a coach walk through your recovery journey with you, that's another thing you can utilize Rockcovery for. And we'll have our online workout this Wednesday. We have tons of running groups, Tuesday, Thursdays, and Friday evenings. And again, if you are looking for more and we don't have it, there's always the archived footage on our Facebook and our YouTube channel where you can find old recovery talks, old workouts. And hopefully we have you covered. If we don't, reach out. Let us know what we can do for you. Or if you have a community organization to recommend that we can highlight on our pages, that would be awesome too. And with that, I'll remind you that I love and appreciate all of you. Thanks for taking time out of your Monday to be here or whenever you watch this video. And I will see you around. Bye.